Hi there, everybody. It's Ellen Weatherford.
And Christian Weatherford.
And this is Just the Zoo of Us, your favorite animal review podcast where we rate your favorite animals out of 10 in the categories of effectiveness, ingenuity, and aesthetics.
We are not zoological experts, but we try to bring the best and most correct information that we can.
I have so much information to share with you. Would you like to guess at how long the Google Doc is I'm looking at right now?
Say 5 pages.
You're too low.
Oh, okay. 10 pages.
That was a little too high.
Okay.
This is a whopping 7 page. So I have a lot to share this week. But first, a couple of housekeeping notes. First of all, this weekend, I'm sorry, I know this is super last minute for a lot of people, but on Sunday, September 28th, we're putting together a little bird watching group. We're going to go bird watching at Juanita Bay Park in Kirkland, which is just outside of Seattle. So if you live in the Seattle area, I would love to see y'all. More details about that are posted on our Instagram. So come check that out if you want to come bird watching with us. And the other thing I wanted to share is a really cool thing that a listener sent in. This listener is named Poison Oak. It says, "Hello, I'm a drag artist and poet based in Queens, New York. I love your podcast and, like you, find a great deal of inspiration from the natural world. After listening to your episode on the lyrebird, I wrote a poem on the magnificent creature. I hope you enjoy." So for a little bit of context, something we talked about in the episode just a couple weeks ago, it was with Dr. Caesar Pushmarin, and he lives in Australia, and he talked about the superb lyrebird, really well known for its mimicry. And one of the really, really cool things he told me about in that episode was this story about lyrebirds mimicking the sound of fire from, I think it was a plane crash, something like that. There was a fire that lyrebirds were mimicking the sounds of the crackling of the fire for like decades afterwards.
Wow.
So like even still like today, you could hear lyrebirds making sounds that sound like crackling fire.
Wow.
And so our friend Poison Oak sends in this poem.
Lyrebird, written and read by Poison Oak. Epigraph reads, "People in Australia would hear the birds mimicking the crackle of fire. If these birds are inheriting calls, how old is that fire?" Lyrebird. First I heard him call at night while camping out in the bush. First I thought the thin nylon barrier between my edible flesh and the dingo's salivation was up in flames. First I braved an eye outside, pupils capturing his tail, a dash of sky in plume as he pecked at the pit's last ember. He turned to me, eyes blacker than thought, a cock of the head, a chasm of the beak, and he released his song. A fire spewed from his throat, all crackle, no smoke. He learned it not from me, nor my measly two-stick attempt at survival. He learned it from his mother, an unhatched lullaby, as she had learned from hers, and she from hers, and she from hers, and she from the first of the two-legged who always birth twins by placenta, who showed their own to turn friction into fire. Here he is, relaying the lesson generations later, teaching me of those who taught him first.
Wow.
I thought that was a really beautiful poem.
Yes.
I really appreciated hearing that. I love hearing things like that. Like so often in these like conversations I'm having with experts or even just things I come across in notes, I stumble across something in nature or in science or in history where I'm like there's something poetic here. I'm like, there's something poetic about this. Like, there's something really inspires creativity or something but like, I don't have the skill set to express it. So I can just kind of put it out into the ether and hope that people like Poison Oak and people who are creative and poetic and artistic can see the vision and turn it into something beautiful. So I really appreciated hearing that. Thank you. I'm very excited to get into this week's animal.
But you have not revealed to me yet.
I have not. This is a complete surprise. Would you like to take a guess?
No, I wouldn't.
There's only, like a few animals it could be, right?
Well, let's start with this. Bones or no bones?
Oh, yeah, that is actually, if you're doing like Akinator, like, I bet Akinator could figure out what animal I'm talking about.
Yeah,
this
probably.
Week. Okay, it has bones. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to get more specific than that? That's a pretty clean split. Yeah. I love the sorting algorithm you're going for.
Let's see. Can I say mammal or bird or fish?
The only two animals there are, mammals and birds. It's a reptile, so it's none of those things.
Wow.
This is going to be really fun for listeners who have already seen the title of the episode and know what it is.
No one is as disadvantaged as me in this respect.
That's true. You're the only one on the planet who this could work for at all.
Is it terrestrial or marine?
That's actually a very interesting part of the story.
Okay.
Is that they are terrestrial, but the marine environment is a crucial part of their story.
Okay.
This is the Galápagos giant tortoise.
Back to the Galapagos.
Yes, it's been a while since we've been to the Galapagos, I feel like. We've talked about vampire finches.
Yes.
Which were one of Darwin's finches. And
the iguanas.
The marine iguanas, that's right. Yeah, our boy Chucky D is back on the scene in a major way in this episode.
Right.
Huge part of the story here. Our boy Chuck D, frenemy of the pod. The scientific name is Chelonoidus niger, and this species was submitted by Ren via email. Ren, you have no idea how. First of all, when I saw the email come in that said a request for Galapagos tortoise, I was just fist pumping. I was like, here we go. This is it. This is my moment.
Yeah.
And I was just so excited. And you really opened the floodgates. So thank you for prying open Pandora's box with this one.
We've only gotten one request for this?
Yeah, that I was surprised too. But I ran a search through my email inbox and I didn't see anyone else asking for the Galapagos tortoise. I feel like I was just like, it just took that one, right?
Yeah.
I was just like forcefully holding back the floodgates of doing an info dump on Galapagos tortoises. And I'm getting my information from the San Diego Zoo, the Galapagos Conservancy's website, galapagos.org, and a few very interesting sources that I will cite as they come up. First of all, they are called Galápagos giant tortoises. And if you know any animal from the Galapagos Islands, it's probably this one, right?
Sure.
And what's the first thing? What is the most obvious trait about these tortoises? What is the most?
They are big.
Them's big. Them's biggins. Males can be up to 6 feet long from head to tail. That is 1.8 meters for metric listeners. And then about 5 feet wide across. So, they're round.
Yeah.
They're hamburger style, but they can weigh up to about 600 pounds, which is 317 kilograms. Now, the Guinness Book of World Records lists the largest tortoise ever measured as a 920 pound. That's 417 kilograms. He was a Galapagos tortoise, and he was named Goliath, and he lived at a bird sanctuary in Florida until he passed away in 2002.
Oh.
Yeah. Big boys.
Was the big tortoise at the Jacksonville Zoo a Galapagos tortoise?
It may have been either the Galapagos tortoise or Aldabra tortoises, which actually Galapagos tortoises and Aldabra tortoises, which are from the Seychelles Islands, which are off the coast of Africa, are very, very similar in size. They're not actually closely related or from anywhere near each other, but they're very, very similar in size and shape and general body plan.
As a refresher, the Galapagos Island is off the coast of...
Yes, I'm about to talk about that.
Okay.
These tortoises are from the Galapagos Archipelago, which is a cluster of volcanic islands that are about 600 miles west off of the coast of Ecuador.
Which is in South America.
In South America, yes.
Okay.
Named because it is on the equator.
Yes.
They are legally a province of Ecuador. So they are governed by Ecuador. And the islands are actually named after the tortoises.
Oh.
I didn't know this, but Galápago is Spanish for tortoise.
Okay.
What, you didn't come across that one in your 500 million days of Duolingo?
No, I'm guessing they have different words for turtle and tortoise then.
Yes. As they should.
Yeah.
They're very different.
Because the other one is tortuga.
Well, now here you go. Because a tortoise is a subset of turtle.
Yeah.
So a tortoise is a terrestrial turtle. All tortoises are turtles.
Yes.
Not all turtles are tortoises. So next time you hear someone say, it's not a turtle, it's a tortoise, leave them alone. It's like saying, like, that's not a dog, it's a poodle. Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, but that's what those are.
Sure.
That's my thing about that.
I usually just ignore those statements. Entirely.
That's true. Opinion discarded. Now, something interesting about the Galapagos Islands, because they come up so frequently in discussion about like evolutionary history and stuff, because they factored so heavily into like the development of evolutionary theory. And I think people often make the assumptions that means that these islands are like particularly ancient and like particularly old, but they're actually extremely young, like geologically. The Galapagos Islands only emerged from the ocean within the last 5 million years. So for a little bit of context, 65 million years ago is when the asteroid hit that killed most of the dinosaurs. So that was 65 million years ago. These islands only erupted about 5 million years ago. So like our early human ancestors had already like split off from like chimpanzees by this point.
Sure.
So like we were already getting into like early hominids and stuff.
These are volcanic islands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just volcanic eruptions. And and when they emerged out of the ocean, they were just big rocks. There wasn't any plant life on them. There were no terrestrial animals on them. When they first emerged, nothing. Yeah. Just rocks. Yeah. In the ground. Well, in the ocean. Now, there are about 15 subspecies of Galapagos tortoises spread across 7 of the Galapagos Islands. Wow. Now, they used to be considered 15 distinct species, and some sources that you'll see will still consider all of those distinct species because I guess the like molecular analysis that revealed them to be sort of all distinct populations of the same species was really recent. That was in like 2021.
Sure.
So like the IUCN, for example, lists every single one of them as a separate species. And I think the San Diego Zoo also, like on their website, listed them as separate species. Okay. But more recent like DNA analysis shows that they're more like subspecies. Once again, this is human taxonomy. This is like largely arbitrary.
It's a big old filing cabinet that we're trying to put things into.
Yeah, it's just our way of trying to, Now, if you're looking outside of Galapagos tortoises, their closest relative is what's called the Chaco tortoise. This is actually a really small tortoise from Argentina. So it kind of shows you where they came from. And that's not to say that they descended from the Chaco tortoise. It's that the Chaco tortoise is the closest living relative to them. So they would have come from something that also had a common ancestor with the Chaco tortoise.
So I assume you're getting into this at some point, but so we think they came from mainland South America.
Yes.
Okay. How'd they get there?
I'm so glad you asked.
Can't swim.
You're such a professional. You know exactly what to ask. Let's talk about it. Let's get into effectiveness for the Galapagos tortoise, which, if this is anyone's first time listening to this podcast, is physical adaptations, traits built into the animal's body that let them do a good job of the things that they're trying to do, whether that is find food or not become food themselves, or in this case, cross a 600-mile gap of ocean without being able to swim.
I have to assume they predate trebuchets.
Can you imagine a trebuchet that could yeet a 500-pound boulder 600 miles with the accuracy needed to hit a mile, to hit an island 600 miles away? Hilarious. So that's a great question. How does a giant tortoise, which cannot swim, get to an island 600 miles off of the nearest coast to it? Do you have a guess?
Maybe it wasn't always 600 miles off the coast?
That's a good guess. They were already quite far away
Okay.
when they emerged. So when the islands did emerge, there were no plants or animals or anything, which means that any species that ended up there had to cross a wide gap of ocean first.
Yeah.
And this kind of makes sense when you're thinking of things like seabirds, which already fly really long distances.
Sure.
We talked about this in the albatross episode. But like they're already crossing hundreds and hundreds of miles. That's light work for a seabird. So when you see seabirds on these islands, you're like, okay, yeah, you seem like you would go there. And then they probably incidentally carried some things with them. Maybe some seeds got stuck in their feathers, and then we landed on the islands. The seeds fell off and then propagated and grew on the island. Spores, right? Like fungal spores. Even cacti ended up getting propagated on the islands. And then some species probably ended up riding across in what's called a rafting event.
Okay.
And this happens all throughout like natural history. This happens all the time. At some point, something will happen, like maybe a big storm blows through an area, and the storm knocks over a bunch of trees, and the trees get washed out to sea.
Right.
Those trees very likely had something living in them, right? For example, iguanas. So they're like, all right, I guess I'm going where this tree's going.
Yeah.
And, you see this with mammals, right? Like rats and little like tree rodents and stuff, like shrews and things would get stuck on a tree that gets washed out to sea, and then they just ride. They're just along for the ride. You'll see this with like mats of seaweed or kelp or something like that. Something will get accidentally stuck on it, and then they just have to ride the current.
Yeah.
And then just where they end up is where they end up. So that's how rafting events are how things like rice rats and iguanas and snakes probably wound up on the islands.
Okay.
These are things that could have survived a pretty lengthy like rafting event. You're making a skeptical face, like you don't believe me.
I noticed you didn't mention tortoises.
No, because that's probably not how they got there. I just thought it was interesting. So when you look at this tortoise, this thing's massive.
Yeah.
They're built like a boulder. Like they look like if you drop them in water, they'd sink right to the bottom. So I didn't know this, but their shell is not made of like solid plate of keratin.
Sure.
It has gaps inside of it. And those gaps create air pockets.
Yeah.
So it's actually a lot lighter than it looks.
It's funny when you were describing it. I did think 600 pounds sounded a little light for how large they are.
They look like they would be way more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, these things are huge. But yeah, they have these air pockets in their shells that actually make them a lot lighter than they look. They also have a really long neck, which means that they can hold their head up out of the water when they're floating.
So what is their natural orientation when floating, out of curiosity? Do you know if...
Right side up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's right. They're not floating upside down. That would be
They
really
do
funny.
seem upside down boat shaped a little bit.
So that will come up later.
Okay.
But it's not good for them to be held upside down like that. I think their lungs are on the top. Like when oriented correctly, I think their lungs are like up above them. So I think if they were flipped upside down, they would be weighing on their lungs. And I don't think that would be good for them long term.
I see.
But yeah, so they have a long neck so they can hold their head up out of the water and they can still breathe. They also, this is something that is common with reptiles. They have a really, really slow metabolism. So they can survive for months at a time with no food and no fresh water, just because of that naturally slow metabolism. They're not expending that much energy, so they don't really need to take in that much food. They can also store a lot of like water and fat and stuff in their body, so they can go a really, really long time. Plus, also being like ectothermic reptiles, basking in the sun all day, that's actually great for them.
True.
They love that. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be you also.
No.
I think you die from sun exposure before dying to anything else.
I wouldn't even lose sight of the beach.
So the conditions for being adrift at sea for months on end really aren't that bad for a tortoise. The tortoise is like, I'm actually built different and I can just kind of float in the water. And there's also there's this current called the Humboldt current that goes like up north towards the equator along like the coast of South America and then goes out west towards the Galápagos Islands. So if a tortoise got like washed out to sea, basically at like any point along the coast of South America, the Humboldt current would have just carried it straight that way. It's still a small island, right? So like it's still a small target that you have to hit riding these currents. But also it only takes one. It only takes one tortoise. One pregnant female tortoise.
Oh, I see what you mean.
If she gets on that island and lays eggs,
I see.
That's it. You've got a population now.
I thought we were going to get into the parthenogenesis again.
I mean, that is a thing reptiles do. I don't think it's been documented, but...
You mentioned the Humboldt circulation? Wait,
current. Yeah.
Current. Is that the same Humboldt as the squid?
Probably, I bet. It's in the ocean. I'm assuming there's only... there's one guy named Humboldt that's doing all the ocean stuff, I guess. Okay.
So is the thought then that the tortoise got there on purpose, or it just found itself in the water?
Could not have possibly gotten there on purpose.
Surely it's not like...
How would it know that there's an island out there?
That's not over here.
What? Oh, yeah, I really got to get to that giant rock in the middle of the ocean with nothing on it. Because this would have been about, the current belief is that this happened about 2 million years ago.
Okay.
So that would have been a few million years after the emergence of the islands. There would have been like some life on it. Probably not to the extent that it is now. Yeah. But yeah, they just kind of showed up by accident, and it just takes one, right? So it's possible that like tons of tortoises got caught adrift at sea and rode the currents and stuff, but like either didn't survive the trip, didn't hit the island, didn't survive once they got to the island. Like it only takes one time for that to work, for you to have a population. I think that is fascinating. I got that information from a paper called Origin and Evolutionary Relationships of Giant Galapagos Tortoises. That was by Adalgisa Caccioni et al. In the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences in November of 1999. Now, as startling as it sounds to think like, oh, wow, I can't believe that this, very large tortoise happened to make this incredible journey across a large body of water and hit an island. That's not the only time that has happened. As I mentioned earlier, the similarly sized Aldabra giant tortoise colonized the Aldabra Atoll, which is an island in the Seychelles. It's about 800 miles off of the eastern coast of Africa. Those tortoises are still there. Yeah. They are still there now. But fossil evidence has actually shown that giant tortoises have dispersed to islands all over the world, including Madagascar and the Caribbean. Like there have been like fossils of giant tortoises on these tiny islands all over the world. And giant tortoises used to be way more common, like on the mainland and stuff. Now you really only see these holdout populations of giant tortoises on isolated islands, but they used to be found in a lot more places. So it seems like giant tortoise is actually a really great build for traveling large distances of ocean because it keeps working.
They seem to diversify their portfolio a bit.
Yeah.
And it paid off.
Well, I mean, not even really, because they're just doing the same thing over and over again, right? Yeah. But also, a lot of times Galapagos tortoises or Aldabra tortoises will be pointed to as examples of what's called island gigantism, which is where like when an animal, a lot of times when like a species lives on an island, something small will eventually get bigger or something big will eventually get smaller. But this actually doesn't work for that because they were already big when they got there. They would have had to be big to survive that trip. To first of all, have a neck long enough that they can hold their head out of the water. And second of all, to like store that much fat and like energy in their body to make that trip. Right. So they would have had to be big already. So they don't really work for island gigantism. But that is an interesting concept. It just doesn't work here.
Sure.
Another thing about tortoises is that they are very slow.
Right.
They do not go fast. They mosey along at 0.16 miles per hour, which is 0.26 kilometers per hour. But that's okay. They don't have any need to rush because they have all the time in the world.
Yes.
Tortoises, especially large tortoises, are well known for having extremely long lifespans, much longer than other vertebrates. So the oldest documented Galapagos tortoise was named Harriet.
Oh.
Originally named Harry, until they found out a long time later that Harry was female. Harriet passed away at the Australia Zoo in 2006 at an estimated age of 175 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. That was the oldest documented Galapagos tortoise. But Jonathan, an Aldabra giant tortoise living in St. Helena, is currently estimated to be 192 years old. So he's pushing 200. And there have been claims of even older tortoises than that, but typically they don't have the documentation to prove. Like, it'll be something like, this tortoise was taken in from the wild in this year, and when it was collected, it seemed to be about this old. So you'll have like a 50-year window of time. They'll be like, oh, it's anywhere from like 150 to 200 years old.
Right.
Or it could be like the tortoise has changed hands a bunch of times, and like you don't know who originally collected it, or it might not be the same tortoise that was originally collected. Like, it's just all that stuff gets a little murky. But the point being that they can live for a super, super long time, way longer than any other type of vertebrate of their size. Something of a similar size, you might think of like a pig, right? Pigs can live for a decently long time, but not over 100 years, certainly. So I was wondering, why is it that turtles and tortoises in particular live so much longer than other vertebrates of similar size? And there's sort of a cocktail of factors. There's sort of like a suite of traits that are helping tortoises live for so long. And they're at the cellular and at the DNA level.
Wow.
The process of like getting old, like physically aging, is called senescence. We've talked about this a few times before.
Yeah.
If you think about the shapes of chromosomes, you've seen chromosomes before, like a scan of them, or like, a diagram of them. You know how they look?
Yeah.
Some of them look like X's, some of them look like Y's, some of them look like strands. Like, they might not have like that little knot in the middle.
Yeah.
But they're like little strands. You can think of them as like a shoelace. And at the end of the shoelace is something called, well, on a shoelace, it's called an aglet, as anyone who's watched Phineas and Ferb knows.
Sure.
But in a chromosome, it's called a telomere. It's a non-coding cap. So it's a little cap that goes right on the end of the strand. It doesn't code for anything, because as the cell divides and as those chromosomes get duplicated, a little bit of that telomere gets chipped away. And it gets worn down over time. So eventually, once the whole thing gets chipped away and worn down, it's kind of like when the tip of your shoelace gets worn down, right? The whole thing comes apart and your shoelace starts to unravel. That's senescence, basically, in a cell. The telomere gets worn down until DNA replication issues start to come up because the chromosomes aren't being protected by these caps anymore. So tortoises, first of all, they have particularly long telomeres. So they can divide a lot for a long time. It's like having a candle with a longer wick, right? Like, you can burn it for a long time without it like wearing down too much. But also, they have some genetic variants that are associated with better DNA repair. So they seem to actually be able to regenerate their telomeres. Actually, you know who's really good at this?
Who?
Lobsters.
Oh.
That was one of the things we talked about. I think you talked about that in the lobster episode, that their telomere regeneration was like, it's a huge part of why lobsters can, quote unquote, live forever, which they can't, but senescence isn't what's going to kill them.
Right.
So that's kind of what's going on with tortoises also. Their telomeres can withstand a lot of replication, and it can let them live for a long time. Also, as is the case with most other vertebrates, as you get older, the older and older you get, the higher you become at a risk of cancer, right?
Right.
But that seems to not really be so much the case with tortoises. They seem to be very resistant to cancer. And there was this paper a couple years ago that showed that, so cells are naturally programmed to sort of self-destruct under certain circumstances. So if they get stressed out, if there are certain cellular conditions, if there's too many of the same type of cell nearby, or if they've, received some type of damage or they're under some type of stress, cells are sort of programmed to self-destruct in this process called apoptosis. So in tortoises, their self-destruct mechanism is really, really sensitive, and it activates when the cell is under like really specific types of stress or experiences certain types of damage. And it doesn't seem like a good idea to have like a really like trigger happy self-destruct mechanism, right? Seems like you wouldn't want your cells to be like, oh, guess I'll die,
Sure.
It doesn't seem like a great idea, but actually in an animal that has a very, very large body, a large body means more cells. The larger your body, the more cells you have. So in a body that has a lot of cells, it makes sense for you to, if under like a very small amount of stress or damage, just get rid of the cell. You have a lot of cells to spare, and you don't want to let them slide, basically, because it would very easily lead to cancer, right? So the idea is that it helps the tortoise's body destroy problematic cells before they can develop into cancerous tumors. And this type of adaptation of like a really sensitive apoptosis response to cellular stress is also seen in elephants.
Really?
Yeah. So in elephants, that also seems to be contributing to why elephants have surprisingly low rates of cancer for how large they are and long-lived they are. So it seems like the same trait in both tortoises and elephants, that their cells are just like very primed to self-destruct, to sort of like purge the body of what could become cancer.
Just strong cellular integrity.
Yeah, which is really interesting. I got that information from a paper called Concurrent Evolution of Anti-Aging Gene Duplications and Cellular Phenotypes in Long-Lived Turtles. That was by Scott Glaberman et al. In Genome Biology and Evolution in December of 2021. So talking about like the long life of tortoises, another thing to keep in mind is that most vertebrates don't go through menopause. Have I talked to you about this? I've talked about this a few times. I don't know if I've talked to you about this.
I think so.
Menopause is very, very unusual in animals in general.
Yeah.
It's unique specifically to humans and toothed whales that will reach a point in their life where even though they're well within the natural range of their lifespan, they just stop reproducing at a certain point. That means that these tortoises pushing 100, 150, 200 years old are still having babies.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's fine. It's like, it doesn't impact like the viability of the offspring at all.
Yeah.
They just keep having babies forever. So actually, earlier this year, a Galápagos tortoise at the Philadelphia Zoo named Mommy
Yeah.
laid her first clutch of eggs at the age of 97.
So they called her that prior to this?
That's what I'm saying. That was a called shot. Like
They were just putting good thoughts out there for it?
They were manifesting.
Huh.
It was aspirational. She had her first eggs this year.
That's nice.
Good job, Mommy. I'm proud of you.
This all reminds me, I think I quote Futurama a lot, but this reminds me of that Futurama episode.
That's our sleep show. We've watched
Yeah.
the entire series like 5 times over in just the process of going to bed.
It was one of those episodes where they take the characters and turn them into like different people or animals.
Sure.
Different
Yeah.
thing.
Love
They
doing
did this for the Galapagos turtles and finches and
I should have
iguanas
rewatched
and
that
things.
episode for this.
Where they had the professor and mom from the robot company.
Great.
2 tortoises that are trying to meet up.
Excellent.
Because like they're like the last tortoises or whatever.
Yeah.
It follows the adventure of the professor, and all the other characters are like other animals on the island as they're going. And it's taking so long for the professor to walk across this island as a tortoise.
Right.
That multiple generations of the other characters have happened. In this. And they're showing off how so Fry was a finch in this episode. They're showing off how his beak has changed.
Yeah. The adaptive radiation.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, that is definitely a 100% just like complete reference to the story of like Darwin and
Yes.
developing the theory of evolution by natural selection on these islands. I will talk about that more at
Sure.
length towards the end.
Sure.
But actually, what you just mentioned ties into the next thing that I had written down, which is that, like I mentioned earlier, there's multiple subspecies of Galapagos tortoises, right? And I think a lot of that, like the reason that even just on one island, you'll have like distinct subspecies, even on the same island. And I think, like you mentioned, it takes them so long to get from point A to point B, right? Like, and this is like, it's like trying to drive a tank across this like rocky volcanic island. Like, it's just going to be difficult for them to get around. So like, even though they live on the same island, they can become kind of isolated from each other and develop these sort of little, isolated populations on these islands. And those tortoises will actually have some really noticeable physical differences. So like different sizes, right? Like some of them on some islands might be a lot smaller than the tortoises on another island. But one of the most sort of easy to notice ones is the shape of the shell.
Huh.
This is something that I think I had noticed over the years of just like casually observing Galapagos tortoises when I see them, but it had never really clicked in my head that this is like a phenotypic difference between subspecies. So, for example, the tortoises from the island of Santa Cruz, so the Santa Cruz tortoise, is from these highlands where the vegetation that they eat is mostly just like grass growing on the ground. So they're grazing off of the ground below them. their shell is domed like a bowl all the way around. It looks like someone just literally flipped a bowl, like up on top of them, right? This is the classic tortoise sort of dome shape. But the Pinta Island tortoises, they actually need to reach up higher to get vegetation like leaves off of bushes or cacti, or like they need to reach up higher. They can't just graze on the ground. They have to go up.
Yeah.
So their shell is actually arched at the front. This might be difficult to explain without a visual, but basically the front of the shell scoops upward and lets the tortoise reach up a lot higher. And that's called a saddleback. So if you ever hear a tortoise referred to as having like a saddleback shell, it's one of those types of tortoises that has to just reach up higher. And then when they have their head down, it makes this huge sort of like, you can see their skin stretch all the way down from like the top of the shell down to their head. And it looks very like, it looks like they have a huge humpback.
Yeah.
That's just a difference in like the subspecies of tortoises. That some of them have a saddleback shell. Some of them have a domed shell. And remember this for later. This will be important to something later. But it is a lot like what you said about in Futurama, how like it takes so long for a tortoise to like cross an island that like by the time they make it across the island, it's probably a few generations later, right?
Right. At least for the birds.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break to hear from our friends on the Max Fun Network, and then I'm going to get into the rest of my stuff for Galapagos tortoises.
All right.
There's so much more left.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I'm one of the co-hosts of Comfort Creatures, and I'm here with River Jew, who has been a member since 2019. Thank you so much for being a listener and a supporter of our show.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah, right? As the Max Fun Member of the Month, can I ask what sort of made you decide to be a member?
I used to work in a library, so I just used to listen to podcasts while I reshelved all the books. Really helped with, doing reading at work. So I just wanted to give back to what's been helping me.
Yeah.
It feels good to be part of that.
As the Member of the Month, you will be getting a $25 gift card to the Maximum Fun store, a Member of the Month bumper sticker, and you also, if you're ever in Los Angeles, you can get a parking spot at the Max Fun HQ just for you.
Yay! I'm actually going to LA in September, so I'll get to use the parking space.
Thank you so much, River, for doing this. This has been an absolute blast.
Yeah, of course. I've been so glad to be able to talk to you too, and I'm so excited to be a Member of the Month.
Yay!
Become a Max Fun member now at MaximumFun.org/join.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy.
I'm Oscar.
I'm Dimitri. And we are the Eurovangelists.
We're a weekly podcast spreading the word of the Eurovision Song Contest, the most important music competition in the world.
Maybe you already heard Glenn Weldon of NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour talk up our coverage of this year's contest. But what do we talk about in the off-season?
The rest of Eurovision, duh. There are nearly 7 decades of pop music history to cover.
We've got thousands of amazing songs, inspiring competitors, and so much drama to discuss. And let me tell you, the drama is juicy.
Plus, all the gorillas and bread-baking grandmas that make Eurovision so special.
Check out Eurovangelists, available everywhere you get podcasts, and you could be a Eurovangelist too.
Ooh, I want to be one.
You already are. It's that easy.
Oh, okay, cool.
The next category we rate animals on is ingenuity, which is behaviors, things they're doing with their body to navigate their world and solve problems that they face in their environment. I'm only giving them a 4 out of 10. I mean,
not too surprising.
What are they doing? Like, I will say, floating aimlessly, completely at the whim of the ocean, and like winding up on an island out in the middle of the ocean 600 miles away from your nearest threat. That's a baller move. Like, that was great. I can't credit them for that, though.
No, it's
that was purely luck.
It's one step above Portuguese man of war.
Yeah, just hoping for the best, like thoughts and prayers completely guided like their entire sort of move. So like, while yes, that was a great idea, it wasn't really an idea, was it? Because you just kind of got sort of stranded there and made the best of it. Although, I will say, ain't no predators out there. So their biggest sort of natural predators are like seabirds, like hawks and stuff that could eat their eggs.
Yeah.
Lots of things will eat a tortoise egg. But once the tortoise has put on a little bit of weight, like if they can survive like hatching and making it to sort of like functional adulthood, they are golden. Like they are good for the rest of their life, basically. But it is those sort of early days, which is why they continue to reproduce for so long,
Yeah.
right? Like they have to kind of make up those numbers because like, yeah, probably not that many of your hatchlings are going to make it.
So is this the kind of tortoise that can like pretty much fully retreat into their shell?
Not like 100%. They can mostly retreat into their shell,
Yeah.
and then they can kind of like cover up like the front with like their legs.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not foolproof, but like there's not really any there's certainly no terrestrial predators
I was
that are big
thinking
enough to eat them.
The sea crossing, they probably had problems with things like sharks and things. But
You know, I bet a shark would try it.
yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, it worked once, right? That's all
Well,
it takes.
I mean, for every turtle that made it, how many did not? Right?
Probably a lot, yeah. But you consider that that's over the course of what?
True.
Millions and millions of years. Like eventually, some of them are going to make it.
Right, because it probably wasn't a single event.
Yeah. I was reading about like rafting events in general, and I saw that like even now we witness rafting events happen.
Yeah.
So like in the Caribbean, you'll get like iguanas will wash up on driftwood on an island they don't normally live on, right?
Yeah,
or in
yeah.
Indonesia, right? If like a big storm rips through, you'll see animals washing up on random islands.
Right.
Like we see this happen in real time. It's just that like if it happens once and it works out, then now you've got a population there.
Yeah,
So I can't give them a lot of credit for the move because it just kind of worked out that way around them. It happened to them, but they do some interesting things. So first of all, when the males fight each other, it's very funny because they size each other up, they face each other, they square up, and then they fight by just raising their heads up as high as they possibly can.
Right.
And they have their mouth open like they're gonna bite, but it's like, what are you gonna do? Like they never actually bite each other.
Right.
They just like have their mouth open and they just like snake their head higher and higher and higher, and whoever like gets their head up the highest wins. And the other one like kind of slinks off like, oh man, you got me. Can you imagine? Like you're at a bar with like your girl and this other guy comes up and starts hitting on her and you're like, hey, square up, bro. And you like face each other and just stand on your tippy toes and try to stretch your neck out really high.
It seems like an intro into and then they kissed.
Now kiss. Yeah, true. With the mouth open thing, you gotta just get higher and higher. Yeah. But then like the guy that like stands on his tippy toes the highest is like the other one's like, man, let's get out of here.
The end.
I wish more people fought that way. They also have an interesting symbiosis, a cleaning symbiosis with finches.
Right.
Little birdies that live on the island. So when a tortoise is approached by a finch, they will stretch out like their neck and their legs, like how a cat does when they really want you to pet them.
Mm-hmm.
They will kind of like stretch out so that the finches will come and like clean them. And even like in zoos and stuff, tortoises will kind of do that for people because they like to be like scritched and rubbed and stuff. So they'll kind of like present like they're like, okay, you can go ahead and clean me now because they enjoy it. It feels good.
Nice.
Now take this next part with a little grain of salt because there are reports of this, but I could not trace them to a primary source. I didn't actually identify anyone saying, yes, I saw this happen.
Okay.
Saw lots of reports on it. Nobody was actually fessing up to seeing it. But there are reports of tortoises acting like they want to be cleaned. So they like stretch up, they like go on their tippy toes to let the finches clean them. And then when the finch goes underneath their body, they drop down like really fast to crush the finch.
Right.
And then eat it.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of this.
You've heard of this?
Yeah.
I had never heard of this. Where'd you hear of this?
Probably Reddit, honestly.
Well, see, that's my problem. So many people were saying it on Reddit, but
Yeah.
nobody could actually link. Someone linked to like, they said it was an account of it happening.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
read it, and it was an account from a shipwreck survivor who was on the islands, but they actually didn't say anything about this, like,
Right.
the tortoises doing this. They talked about the tortoises, but they did not describe this behavior.
Sure.
So I could not track down the source of this claim. And my first like thought reading this was that it doesn't seem likely. Like Galapagos tortoises, first of all, are like basically entirely herbivorous.
Sure.
They don't have like a hunting instinct. They just eat leaves. Like they would have no reason to do this. It's just very out of character. It's not the sort of thing a tortoise would do.
I would believe it if it were not intentional.
Right. I could see that. I could see like, oh no, they accidentally fell. But like the people claiming this claimed that it was like to hunt and eat the finch.
Huh.
So I was ready to fully throw this away, being like, this seems like malarkey to me.
Can they even drop that quickly?
I don't think they could do anything that quickly. Well, so here's why I backed up a little bit on it.
Okay.
Because I did find a video of an Aldabra tortoise. So once again, not a Galapagos tortoise. But it was hunting and eating a baby bird.
Huh.
Literally, there's no other way to spin it. You cannot describe it any other way.
Sure.
There's this baby bird, it's a tern, and it's on a log, and you can tell it's a baby bird because it can't fully fly yet, and it's making these sort of like distressed cheeps. And the bird is hopping away from the tortoise and trying to get away from it.
Huh.
And the tortoise keeps like menacingly walking towards it and like snapping at it. And the bird just keeps scooting away, but it can't fly.
Right.
And eventually the tortoise catches up to the bird and eats it.
Huh.
I've never seen anything like it. I was like, are you serious?
It's like the human hunting strategy, just at a different...
Persistence hunting.
Yeah, just at a different scale.
I was like, that's awful. This is like horror movie behavior. It's like what's the movie? It Follows, right?
I don't know.
I think that's about that.
Okay.
So the video is available if you want to watch it. It is a bizarre video.
Huh.
Like, it is so strange. Even herpetologists were shocked by the video because like it is just so outside of the realm of like anything anyone's ever seen a tortoise do. Like they're herbivores. They shouldn't even really have a chase instinct. Like they shouldn't have a prey drive.
Uh-huh.
Right? They eat things that are stationary. They should not have a drive in them to chase something moving away from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just so weird, and yet it happened.
Huh.
Like, and that's the thing. If that hadn't been on video, I probably wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah.
But it's on video.
Huh.
So yeah, you can go watch that video if you want. It's on YouTube. It's if you don't want to see a baby bird getting eaten, then don't watch it because it happens in the video. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's why when I read about that, I was like, okay, I guess I can't totally discount this like dropping down on finches to kill and eat them. I guess I can't totally discount it because like I guess sometimes they got that dog in them, right? Like I guess sometimes they just what is it? The intrusive thoughts win.
Yeah.
What? You look like you're thinking about something.
I still think I don't know. So was it like implying that it uses deceit for what should be like a cleaning thing?
Implying that it's like a trap, that they set a trap, which
I feel like that would cause the whole thing to fall apart, right?
Yeah, I think that's where it falls apart for me. That's where the wheels fall off because I don't think they're that smart. I just don't think they're that smart.
But I mean, also like the birds would be, oh, wait a minute.
The birds would stop cleaning them, right?
Yeah.
Like if it was a frequent thing, they would stop doing that.
Yeah.
Fool me once, right? Like
Right. Same thing with like cleaning wrasse and fish like that, right?
Well, that system works because the predators don't eat them, right? Like that system only works on trust that like is built up over many generations of you like respecting that dynamic.
I guess now that makes me wonder, is it because the predator is aware of the dynamic or just because that cleaning wrasse just so happens to not be an interesting food item to the predator anyway?
I don't know. I do want to do more research on cleaner wrasses. Anyone who really wants to send in a request that I will definitely do. Send in cleaner wrasses. I want to talk about them so bad. But yeah, so that's why I was like, I saw this and I was like, I should mention it, but I can't fully I can't go full send on it because I don't see the documentation for it.
Yeah.
If anyone does have a primary source for that, please let me know.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting. I just also don't 100% think it's true.
Yeah.
So the last category we rate animals on is aesthetics. I'm giving them a 9 out of 10. They're so cute. They're adorable. They look like a kind old man, and they look old from the moment they exist. Like they load in looking old. So like when people are like, "Oh yeah, this tortoise is like 200 years old." They look exactly like a 40-year-old tortoise to me. I could not tell you the difference. Like they look old straight out the gate. And it's not a Benjamin Button thing either because they start old and they stay that way forever. I do think they're cute though.
Yeah, they're nice.
Do you think they're cute?
Do they have eyelashes? Am I imagining that?
I don't think they have eyelashes.
I think
Wish they did though. That'd be great.
Oh yeah.
If I could send them
reptiles don't have eyelashes.
If I could, no, let's not say that because there probably is. I'm gonna Google it, and there's gonna be like, the
eyelashed skink.
Oh, the eyelash crested gecko.
Oh. Wait, I made.
I don't think they. No, that is a real thing.
Oh, okay.
Eyelash crested geckos are real. I don't think they have actual eyelashes though. It's like
Okay.
something that looks kind of like eyelashes, but it's not.
Okay.
I'm not going to dwell too much on aesthetics because I still have a lot more to talk about.
But that was the last category.
I know it was the last category, but this is also where we talk about conservation and pop culture.
Okay, I see.
And so obviously conservation is a big thing for Galapagos
Yes.
tortoises, like you mentioned. People know about it enough to make it to a Futurama episode.
Yeah, that whole episode was about just an endangered species propagating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a big problem. Okay, so rewinding back to when Spanish sailors first arrived on the Galapagos Islands.
Mm-hmm.
So this is first human contact with the islands. It's in 1535. There were an estimated 300,000 tortoises on the islands. And the Spanish hunted the tortoises for food, but they also introduced livestock to the islands. So things like goats and pigs, even rats that they just like accidentally like had on the ship. They were hiding somewhere on the ship and it got out.
Yeah.
So the humans start introducing species to the island. So the goats and the pigs, they just graze all of the vegetation, right? So now you're not leaving enough vegetation left over for the tortoises to eat, and also just killing the tortoises directly for food.
Did you happen to find what was the logistical benefit to using the islands instead of just mainland?
I don't know. I mean, it does seem pretty far out of the way, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I do know that a lot of times ships would basically use it kind of like a refueling station, like a refilling station. They would swing by and load the ships up with tortoises.
Huh.
Because, like I mentioned earlier, the tortoises can live for a very, very, very long time with no food or water.
Yeah.
They're also very slow. They're pretty easy to catch. So they would basically store a bunch of tortoises on the ship so that months later, when they were like out of fresh food and they needed something to eat, they had a live tortoise that they could kill and eat for like fresh meat right then.
Boat snack.
Boat snack, yeah. This is a long-term, food storage. And also, you asked earlier about the orientation of the tortoise. I heard that sometimes they would flip the tortoises upside down to store them on the ships.
Oh.
And I think that was just so they wouldn't be walking around on the ship. But I also don't think they would live very long that way. But I heard that they tried it, but I don't think it was good for them.
Huh.
So I think sometimes ships would stop there just to get tortoises.
Huh.
Also, introducing rats to the islands means that the rats were eating the tortoises' eggs. And then, basically everything that was brought onto the island was bad news for the tortoises. Also, people who ate them often wrote in letters back, people who ate the tortoises described them as being some of the most delicious meat they'd ever tasted.
Huh.
They said it was like nothing will ever like compare to this. Like I've never had anything like it. Like it's the most delicious thing I've ever tasted. Let's keep in mind, these men have been at sea for probably months, possibly years by this point. I feel like they've probably been living off of like beef jerky and hardtack. I think a slice of bologna would have blown their minds by this point, Like, I'm just saying, I don't think they're reliable sources of sort of a food review. I feel like if you gave them a Dorito, they'd die. So yeah, I would just kind of side eye some of those descriptions. So by 1850, at least one of the subspecies, the Floriana tortoise, had gone completely extinct. And all of the populations of Galapagos tortoises were in very steep decline. And then by 1959, the Ecuadorian government established Galápagos National Park to designate the islands as protected land. So you can still go there to visit. You have to be accompanied by guides. You have to stay on the trails. Like it is very tightly monitored. Like, yes, it's a national park that you can like go visit and stuff, but they're not playing around because they're trying to restore the islands. They're trying to fix all of the damage that people have done to them over the years. So the Charles Darwin Research Center worked alongside with the San Diego Zoo to bring tortoises from the islands into captivity and start a breeding and Head Start program. So Head Start meaning not only are they breeding the tortoises, like, putting egg and sperm together to make the eggs, but they're also incubating the eggs and then raising the hatchlings. Mm-hmm. So they keep them in captivity to protect them until they get to the right size where they can release them into the wild, and they should be at the right size where there's no natural predators on the islands for them. So they'll be fine. It's just this Head Start program, which is not specific to Galapagos tortoises. There are a lot of Head Start programs for different animals. And tortoises and turtles seem to be a good one for those. When I was in Palm Springs, actually, I went to the zoo there. It's called the Living Desert, and they have a desert tortoise Head Start program. Aww. And it's in like a little room where you can go in and like see the tortoise hatchlings. It's so cute.
I'm imagining something like from the first Jurassic Park movie, like with the eggs, just kind of.
Yeah, it doesn't look that high tech because there's a lot of Tupperware involved.
Oh yeah.
It's like Tupperware with like a heating lamp above it. It's a nice enclosure and stuff. With tortoises, you don't need a lot of vertical space, right? So you can just kind of have a big tub.
They could get a sponsorship for that kind of lab from like Ziploc or Glad.
Product placement. If we did a Jurassic Park movie now, we could get some great product placement going. So these programs did end up seeing a lot of success, with the exception of the Pinta Island tortoise.
Okay.
A single tortoise named George was found on Pinta Island in 1971, and he ended up being the last wild tortoise ever seen on the island. Huh. They thought they were going to find more. They looked for more, but he was the last one.
Okay.
So he just ended up being the last member of his species. At the time, he was considered a species. That earned him the nickname Lonesome George, because he was the last Pinta Island tortoise. Aww. That's probably specifically what the Futurama episode was about, because he was very, very well known for being like the last remaining member of his species.
Maybe.
It made big news. So researchers and caretakers actually spent decades trying to find a mate for George.
Yeah.
And there were many females that he ended up, trying to mate with, and they mated. It's just that either they didn't produce eggs, the eggs weren't viable, the hatchlings didn't develop. It ended up being that there was actually something wrong with like his sperm, where he was never going to produce viable offspring, which was just an unfortunate sort of lightning strike of faith to him, unfortunately, that him being the last one left, he also was like infertile.
Yeah.
He did pass away in 2012, and he was around the age of 100.
Wow.
So this made really big news at the time, because it was it's the last member of a species, right? He's an endling. He died, and that was like the end of a species.
Right.
So that was the Pinta Island subspecies. That one, done. R.I.P. Rest in peace. Pour one out. Now, I mentioned earlier that the Floriana subspecies had gone extinct in the 1800s. So over 100 years later, scientists discovered that there was this population on a nearby island called Wolf Volcano Island, which is the most DeviantArt OC name.
Yeah.
Wolf Volcano, that's great. I'm going to use that for something. So there were tortoises on that island that were actually hybrids that were descended from the Floriana tortoises who had gone extinct 100 years before.
Okay.
So the thought was that there had been this shipwreck, like this really, really big shipwreck as a ship was like leaving the island, Floriana Island, like 100 years before. And the thought was that that ship probably had Floriana Island tortoises on it, and they just washed ashore and made it to the island and then reproduced with the Wolf Volcano Island tortoises and making these hybrids. So now scientists are breeding those hybrid tortoises, trying to like reverse engineer the Floriana tortoise. So they're trying to like approximate what the Floriana tortoise would have been like so that they can reintroduce them to the island.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they make an important, like, and this is responsible, like this is how responsible people do. They make an important distinction saying we're not de-extincting.
Right.
Like, this is not de-extinction. We're not bringing back the extinct Floriana tortoise. We're trying to approximate it. Like, we're trying to work towards it, it's not going to be the same thing, but we're doing our best.
Yeah.
Rather than saying we brought an extinct species back to life. And then you're like, well, hold on a second.
'Cause at that point, it's not so much about the tortoise, it's more about the overall ecosystem.
Yes, it is. It's about what the tortoise is bringing into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's about things like the fact that it's a large grazer, right? Like it's the island's largest herbivore. It's going to be doing a lot of plant population control.
Yeah.
It's going to be, grazing back a lot of vegetation so it doesn't get overgrown and it doesn't like choke out, other plants that are trying to grow. They're even, it's like a small car driving around on the island. It's flattening the ground and like churning up soil, and even just like the sort of mechanical movements of these massive tortoises around the island is like making corridors and tunnels and holes that like birds can use for nests. Or like they're like ecosystem engineers, right? It's kind of like how elephants like terraform just by like, digging their tusks into the soil and stuff. So like it's a large animal, and their impact is like even just not having them there is felt. So they're trying to replicate that so that they can bring that presence back to the island and hopefully get some of the invasive species under control. Did you know they also have invasive blackberries?
Really?
They have a problem with that too.
Huh.
Spiritually linked. So this is where I want to talk about Charles Darwin. Earlier, I mentioned that there are differences in the tortoise subspecies based on what island they live on. And this phenotypic variation between the tortoises is often attributed to being part of the inspiration for Charles Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection. So the idea and the story that often gets sort of told is that he was on these islands, he saw how, the tortoises that live on these different islands are shaped different.
Oh, I see.
Kind of like with the finches, right? It's you can see, like natural sort of traits of the environment shape the species, and that he saw it there and was inspired to, come up with this theory of evolution by natural selection. And that was this famous The Voyage of the Beagle, when it visited the Galápagos Islands in 1835. But that's a little bit of like an apocryphal sort of like romanticizing of how it really went. It's kind of a retconning.
Okay.
Because really, first of all, Darwin's theories, he really didn't solidify his theories until like years after his trip.
Yeah.
Like the trip was cool and all. He was running around doing some weird stuff and like observing some stuff. But it wasn't until like 10 years later that he actually like published On the Origin of Species. Wasn't published until like the 1850s.
Because during the trip, wasn't he like a 20-something tossing iguanas into the ocean?
He was a weird kid. He was like someone's weird friend that like he got like brought along. He wasn't an established scientist or anything. He was kind of like a last minute addition to the trip also. But also at the time of the trip, he didn't seem to notice that the tortoises were different at all.
Oh.
Like, he really did not seem to take notice of that. He was told, like, really early in the voyage that the people who, like, worked on the islands, they could look at you and tell you which island that the tortoise was from based on looking at it, because they could tell that the tortoises were different. But he kind of did not believe them.
Okay.
Even though he saw tortoises on multiple islands, including some with saddleback shells and some with dome shells. So he would have seen tortoises that would have looked very different from each other, but he did not make that observation. Like, he did not, like, include that in his notes. It wasn't until writing about the journey in retrospect, years later, that he included notes on like, oh yes, some tortoises have shells like this and some have shells like this. And he had to track those shells back down later. I'll explain why in a second. But basically, he assumed that the Galapagos tortoises had been introduced to the islands by sailors.
Okay.
Because, like I mentioned earlier, sailors already had the practice of like carrying tortoises on the ships with them. So he assumed that they would have brought the tortoises onto the islands, which I gotta say, I can't really fault him too much for this, because they did introduce a lot of species like goats and pigs and rats and stuff. So I could see, it seems like a weird place for tortoises to end up. I'm just saying. Right. I can see the vision on this one. So he sees tortoises there. He's like, yeah, these are probably just tortoises that got carried here by people. Certainly did not think they had been there for more than like 200-300 years. Huh. And it wasn't until after he came back to England in 1936 that some other scientists told him that they were like, hey, actually, we're pretty sure these tortoises are native to these islands. He started to take them more seriously. He started to think back on it. But I mentioned that he had to track down more shells
Yes.
of the tortoises. And that's because, and this is a quote from an essay I was reading about this. Darwin had one last opportunity after his departure from James Island to follow up the vice governor's claims about the tortoises. Fitzroy returning Chatham Island for fresh water, while Darwin was collecting specimens on James, had taken on 30 large tortoises to be stored in the ship's hold as supply of fresh meat during the Beagle's cruise across the Pacific. But Darwin and his Beagle shipmates gradually ate their way through the evidence that eventually, in the form of hearsay, was to revolutionize the biological sciences. Regrettably, not one of the 30 Chatham Island carapaces reached England, having all been thrown overboard with the other inedible remains.
Wow.
So, like, human understanding of biology impeded for like a decade because the scientists responsible for the specimens necessary ate them.
Yeah.
And threw them away in the garbage.
Huh.
Sorry, can't do the research. I ate it. It's a little bleak, but it's also very funny.
Yeah.
Cannot perform research due to I ate it.
That's so strange. You think someone would have wanted a memento at least.
Something. A trinket.
Yeah.
They loved trinkets. They loved curios.
Right.
They loved stuff like that. I would have loved, although these things are huge.
Sure.
They probably didn't have that kind of space.
But you could probably stack them after they've been eaten.
I mean, you'd have to take it apart to stack it, though.
I mean,
Like,
they had to
'cause
take it apart to get it to the meat, I assume.
Not fully, because there's something called a plastron at the bottom of the carapace.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's rigid. So you would have had to like saw through that, I guess, to stack it. I think so, at least. If you're trying to stack them like cups or bowls or something where they like, yeah, you'd have to like saw through the plastron, I think, to get that.
I just figured they'd have to do that anyway to get to the like torso.
I don't think so. And it did take him years to get his hands on new carapaces that he needed to actually study the differences. He had to go track some new ones down. And I was like, dang, if only you hadn't eaten them. And I got that information from an essay called Darwin and the Galápagos, and that was by Frank J. Sulloway. That was published in the Biological Journal of the Linnaean Society in June of 2008. It's a kind of an in-depth look at like Darwin and the role that like other scientists around him played in helping him flesh out his ideas and like really synthesize his observations that he made in the Galapagos. Because like I mentioned, in the Galapagos, he wasn't really thinking in terms of like, oh, what does this say about evolution?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't until a long time later that he kind of thought back on it. It was like, oh, now that I think about it.
It wasn't at the time his background geology.
Was he out there licking rocks? Like,
Well, I don't remember the details, but
Yeah, I
I want
don't
to say
know.
last time we talked about it, like during that trip, like he really didn't have that much of a background in what we would call biology.
he was
or-
very young and he
Yeah.
was not super experienced at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously,
But-
out there eating his work.
Yeah, but I guess I don't know. Kudos coming back to
He got there.
back to it.
Yeah, he got there eventually. And just the last little thing, because we usually like to end on something from pop culture. Do you know who I have for pop culture in here? The only Galapagos tortoise I could think of in pop culture.
Is it from the Wild Thornberries?
Was there one in the Wild Thornberries?
I think so. Yeah.
Not that I can think of.
It's not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No, those are certainly not.
That is what popped in my head first, though.
Oh, okay.
Big
Although
turtle.
you're sort of in the right wheelhouse.
Okay.
It's Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda.
Okay.
And I was thinking about this. I was like, okay, we're a Kung Fu Panda house. We
Yeah.
love Kung Fu Panda.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, all of the animals in Kung Fu Panda are all Chinese animals. They're all animals from China.
Sure.
Except Master Oogway. And I was thinking, I was like, is he just like a really big tortoise? Maybe like a native Chinese tortoise? Like, and you would be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for myself how far I had to dig to find confirmation that Master Oogway is canonically, like, I had to find an archived version of the Kung Fu Panda website.
Yes.
That had like you had to dig so far into this website to find a passage on the website that says Oogway the sage journeyed from his home in the Galapagos Islands.
I figured it was going to be like a very well-traveled monk type figure.
As a young tortoise almost 1,000 years ago. It says he traveled the world visiting every country until his feet led him finally to China.
Yeah.
Which I think conflicts with the backstory they establish in another movie where they show that he was like a warlord, right? Wasn't he like a warrior? He had this backstory where it was with the water buffalo guy. The water buffalo villain. They revealed that like they used to be like homies, I guess, and they like fought alongside each other.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, the thing with 1,000-year timeline
that's
is,
true.
You know,
yeah, that's a wide window of time. But yeah, I guess he just appeared. He was confirmed to be a Galapagos tortoise.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I was like, "There's no way." They picked the right animal for that kind of design. He had that. They all look like that. All Galapagos tortoises have that like sage, wise old man sort of like. They look like they would know some like secrets to inner peace and harmony and stuff.
Which is really just, you know, all that is just a human observation. Like any other animal probably doesn't see them and think old.
That's true. Yeah, it is a lot of human projection. Yeah. It's kind of like how like owls have this like association with like wisdom and knowledge and stuff, and like people who work with owls are like, no, they're the dumbest birds I've ever met in my life. they're so dumb and they don't know anything.
I bet someone started that as like being ironic or as a joke, and it was lost
sarcasm
on someone. And then,
well, it came from ancient Greece, from Athena, the goddess of a lot of things. One of them being wisdom. An owl was like her patron, isn't the right word, but something like that. You know, it was like she was associated with owls.
Maybe they didn't have quotation marks in ancient Greek or /s.
Oh yeah, so wise. They didn't do the inscriptions on the Parthenon with the like alternating uppercase and lowercase letters.
I'm gonna rewrite the Odyssey, just changing the tone of certain passages.
The sea was the color of wine, whatever that's supposed to mean. So that's the Galapagos tortoise.
Thanks.
I had so much fun doing notes for this. It was a great time. Thank you all so much for spending this time with us. Thanks for listening to my yap sesh. It was a lot of fun. I hope that you had as much fun as I did.
I did.
Well, you have to. You're stuck in here with me. If you liked what you heard, I hope you leave behind some nice words for us in a review on your podcast app of choice. Like it's_Brizabel, who wrote, "There isn't a better way to spend your day than by listening and learning about animals from these passionate people that talk all about the planet and the critters that inhabit it. Love everything you guys do." From Bree.
Aww.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
Thanks,
and
y'all.
Also, another one from Dolphin Girl 5555, who wrote, "This podcast is amazing. Super fun way to learn about animals. Would definitely recommend. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think you've done barn owls. If you could, that would be great."
Guess we haven't.
Have not done barn owls. Interesting. We are on social media. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a bird watching outing coming up very, very soon. So go check out our Instagram if you want to see more about that. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, Blue Sky. Links to that stuff will be in the episode description. We'd also like to thank Maximum Fun for having us on their network alongside the other fantastic shows they have, like Let's Learn Everything, which actually I'm going to be on an episode of theirs coming up. And we'd like to thank Louis Zong for our theme music, which is great, and I love it, and I can't wait to hear it again as I'm editing it into this episode. And thank you, Christian, for being here.
Anytime.
For being our Futurama archivist, our Futurama correspondent. We'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Maximum Fun, a worker-owned network of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.